Have you ever been listening to a drummer and they're playing all the right notes, but the sound they're getting is just not quite right? It's a little off, or maybe yourself. You feel like you're playing the same notes as your favorite drummer, but you're not getting the same sound or feel. This is one of the biggest issues I see that separates kind of intermediate from really advanced sounding players, and that is the tone. Tone is everything. This was a huge issue in my own playing. I was able to fix it, and I've got 5 exercises that are going to specifically help you work on that. And seriously, if you will focus on this, how you're hitting this instrument that we play, your sound is going to go through the roof. This first exercise is a drum precision exercise. So it's where we're hitting on the drum. All hits on the drum are not created equal. So we are going to be focusing on several things. We're going to be focusing on the placement of our hit and what it sounds like, the velocity that we're hitting at. We're going to be trying to really recreate the same tone each time we hit it. Now, whenever we hit, let's say we hit a snare drum. I'm going to turn the snares off. If we hit it directly center, we get one sound. If we come off slightly off center, get a little bit more overtone. And continuing to the edge, hear how it gets deeper the further to the center we get. So whenever especially when you put a microphone on that, whenever you're hitting, the placement of that stroke has so much to do with the sound that you're going to be getting out of it. It doesn't really matter if you have tuned this drum perfectly. If we don't know how to hit the drum, if our touch is not there, then it's just not going to sound how you want it to. There's a great drummer in town in Nashville, Jay Bellarosa, and he is fantastic. His touch is just through the roof. And I could name off so many drummers that I just have such respect for the way that they hit and touch the instrument when they're playing it. So how do we fix this? What we want to do is we want to pick a spot on the drum. It doesn't matter the spot, and we don't want to label sounds as good or bad. We simply want to get the same sound consistently. We also want to watch out for leaving our stick on the drum when we play, which is going to deaden it or mute it to also give us some multiple strokes, right? So we want to hit the drum and play off of the drum, bring the sound out. We don't want to play into the drum and close it up. Same thing goes with the toms. When we're hitting those, we want to understand where we're hitting them. Have you ever seen someone's tom and there's just hits all over the place? We don't want that. So what I want you to do is I want you to pick a very simple drum beat, and I simply want to focus on a specific area of hitting that snare drum. And I would even go so far, I did go so far as whenever I was trying to do this, I would take, I believe I took a mason jar top first and drew a circle. And once I could do that, then I got a little bit smaller and then a little bit smaller until you get in the size of a quarter or a $50 where you're hitting in that same spot. And what I want you to do is play a simple groove and just try to recreate the same tone and the same velocity that you're hitting at. If you were to look at this on a grid, you would want those peaks to go up to the same point. This is a huge thing when you get in the studio. You go in there and you look at the engineer, they're gonna start pointing out, hey, your snare hits are inconsistent, or your tom hits are inconsistent. You're peaking here and then you're coming down. Can you level those out for me? Let me demonstrate. I'm going to hit slightly off center of this snare drum, and we're just focused on the drum right now. The cymbals will come later. So I'm gonna hit slightly off center of this drum, and I'm just gonna focus on the tone of that. As well with my kick drum, I want to focus and make sure I'm getting the same velocity when I play that. 3, 4. Now, here's another thing. What we want to do is decide, am I going to go for a rim shot as well? We don't want a bunch of accidental rim shots. So let's go for a rim shot. Now let me play that where I'm playing kind of rim shots, changing up spots on the snare drum, changing the velocity, and let's see what that sounds like. These are things that we have to really dig in on and listen. You have to turn it up and go, can I hear those nuanced differences? And if you can't, we may need to listen a little bit closer. All right, now, maybe I want to hit more towards the edge and get that consistent sound. There's no wrong or right here. It's just a tone, and you're wanting to get repeat that tone as consistently as possible when you're playing. So I suggest you take a groove or a pattern that you know very well and begin to work on this. This is one of what I would call the big seven. There's 7 big picture principles that we can focus on in any exercise, and that's going to be articulation, dynamics, technique, melody, flow, groove, timing, all of those. And this would be in the articulation and dynamics range. And so we're wanting to be able to replicate that. Then I want you to say, okay, cool, I'm gonna play 2 accented backbeats on 2 and 4. And my ghost notes, I wanna make those the same level. I wanna make them the same consistency so that we get a very professional sound whenever we're playing this. So every note I'm hitting here, all too often it's like, oh, I'm playing the pattern. And it's like, no, you're not playing the pattern as it is because we're not hitting the same consistency and velocity and all of that. So that's gonna be the first thing we wanna do. You can also take that to the toms. You can play a fill and be, let me play. See how my head is following each hit? I want there to be intention with each time I hit that drum. I want to have decided ahead of time, is this an accent, is it an unaccented note? That is really gonna separate your tone. So that's the first exercise, is the drum precision exercise. And likewise, we're hitting cymbals just as much as we're hitting drums. So now it comes to the cymbal precision exercise. Remember, we're digging deep on this. Take some things you already know and try to play them on these sound sources and get good sounding tones. Again, thank you to Sweetwater and Zildjian for sponsoring this video. We've got a 22-inch medium thin low Constantinople ride cymbal here. Just sounds incredible. But here's the thing, I've seen so many drummers that have great cymbals and great drums and they don't sound good, right? Beyond us tuning them, it's how we hit them. You have to understand the tip of your stick, whether that's a barrel or a teardrop, also affects the sound. I would encourage you, get different type tips on your sticks and then hit your cymbal. It changes the tone dramatically. What we want to do first is explore all of the sounds on this cymbal and see how many there are. So we start at the edge. Then go right to the, kind of go along there into the middle. We can get a different sound on the bell if we hit here versus here, right? But what we want to do is we want to pick the sound that we want. So I'm gonna play right here on the edge of the cymbal, and this is, remember, consistency of cymbal sound. And I want to replicate this sound that I start with as much as possible when I'm playing. So I'm gonna play right here on the edge of the cymbal with the tip of the stick. Let's play with the meat of the stick, with the body of the stick. How I was washing that cymbal or crashing that cymbal, but it wasn't too loud. I wasn't overplaying it. That's a different sound. That's a different sound, and then we have to start going, okay, is that overplaying the drums? Am I blowing out my overheads? We're talking about, it's not just the patterns. The patterns are not the reason why you love your favorite player. It's the intention that they play with. It's how they hit that cymbal. Now let's go to the middle. And what may happen is you may not be able to focus on the drums at the same time. It may be too much. So you may have to do one exercise at a time and then combine them later as you're able to kind of zoom out and focus a little bit more. Let's go to the middle of the cymbal and see what that sounds like. Once you get better at this, then say, okay, cool, I'm gonna play one measure in the middle of the cymbal, one measure at the edge of the cymbal, and then one measure washy. Let's see what that sounds like. 3, 4. They're all different tones, right? And as I'm going, I'm gonna be like, oh, you know, maybe I can play consistently. Another thing it would be to hit the ride cymbal on the downbeats, right on the bell. Boy, the number of awful sounds I've heard with that. You wanna go, first explore the cymbal. What's a good tone? What tone are you going for? We don't know how to play it and play the exercise if we don't first understand the cymbal. I don't like that for what I wanna do. Not that it's bad, you could play. But for a more powerful, like rock sound, notice how it's the same sound. It's the same here, but it's also the same sound here. And a really easy way to start really hearing, are you doing this, is to record yourself. Record yourself and listen back. Am I getting a consistent sound with how I'm hitting it? All right, so we're gonna do that on all the cymbals. We're gonna do that on our hi-hat. A big one with the hi-hat is consistent sloshiness, if you will. So if it's sloshy, is it big sloshy? Is it just a little sloshy? Is it tight? Or hear how we're starting to choke the sound of the cymbal too? So we have to understand the parameters of the instrument and understand when we hear that instrument kind of start blowing itself out. So do that with all of your cymbals as well as with all of your drums from the exercise before. Okay, this third exercise I call hitting with intention. To quote a good friend of mine, Jeff Clapp, when we hit a drum, we were starting a chain of events. We were trying to express emotion through sound. And so we have to hit with intent. I was just talking to one of my kids the other day about this because they apologized. I said, I'm sorry. I said, hey, you hurt their feelings, you need to apologize. Sorry. Okay, this is, right? You're sitting there like, yeah, that's not a real apology. It's not, right? Why? Because the intent wasn't there. So how we say words means everything. You know, and I'm sorry means it's different than, hey, I'm really sorry. The intention, look them in the eye. Like there's something to a good apology, right? Well, there's something to hitting a cymbal correctly. There's something to hitting a drum correctly. So we have to hit with intent. Now, what does that mean and how do we make that into an exercise? So what I want to do is no note escapes me that I don't play it how I want to, okay? So pull the tempo way back. And what I want you to do is not just be like, okay, it's 8 notes on the ride cymbal. We're not the monkey clanging the cymbals. What I want to do is I want to play everything with intention. So I want to know my ghost notes are at a certain level. I want to know my accident notes are at another level. I want to hit my cymbal with the intention, and I'll change that intention. Okay, now I want to go up here, I want to play. So the best way for me to do this is to demonstrate hitting with intent. But the way I think about it is every note matters. You'll see me looking at the drum, I was watching a video of Vinny the other day, and I mean, he was staring his ride cymbal down. He did this huge fill, and then immediately he went to his ride cymbal. Every note was hit with the intention that he wanted. So we have to have intent behind our sound, the same way we have to have intent and intention behind our words and how we do that, okay? So here's this. I'm gonna play this, and I'm gonna play it maybe without intent, and then I'll play it with intent. So. That's a certain feel. If I was to play that with intent, where every note matters, then maybe I would start to put more care into each note. So as I'm hitting, I'm thinking about where am I hitting on the cymbal? Am I going to lay into it? Am I crashing into it, or am I just going to kind of push into the cymbal, which is different than a crash. a push is a little bit different, right? These are all the nuances that you begin to explore as you explore these exercises. Because it's not something I can write out on a sheet of paper for you. We can write out dynamics, but I really can't write out, you need to, this is the intent you need to play. The best way I can convey this to you is in that apology analogy. There has to be meaning behind each note. Don't ever put yourself on autopilot. Don't say it's just eighth notes. It's not just eighth notes. We're trying to convey emotion through sound. So we have to have intent behind each hit. This fourth exercise I call pathways of motion. We have to carve out pathways to help us have these consistent sounds. Anybody that's watched, Jeff Porcaro's a great one. There's so many others that are great at these pathways of motion. Steve Gadd, Steve Smith, all the Steves, Steve Jordan. And a good one would be like Jeff Porcaro's hi-hat, when he's playing those 16th notes. Okay, watch my hand. If you slow that down, it is making the same pathway. Same thing for this hand. I'm making the exact same motions every time. It's going up the same height. The motion is, on my hi-hat, it's kind of circular in the same way. Why? Because that ensures that I'm using my body like a dancer to help keep myself in time. So if I'm playing this big, wide open beat in 6/8. When I'm here, I'm returning, and then the abnormal will be the crash or something like that, but then I always return back to this consistent motion. But if I had to play it softer, then it would be what? It would be smaller. Maybe I'm playing like a muted. If I'm playing all over the cymbal, it's getting all these different tones, right? So we have to be understanding of where we're hitting and how we're hitting it in the pathway that's happening. This happens whenever I'm crash writing a lot. Let's say it's like, see, this one has a different topper I don't really like for big crashing. So when I'm writing, I actually had to adjust a little bit because the swing of the cymbal has something to do with that. And I don't want it to come back and me hit it at an odd angle where I don't get a consistent crash. Instead of me, it's inconsistent. Sometimes the eights come out, sometimes, but if I'm playing this big, I want that, I want a consistent sound there, okay? So we have to watch our pathways of motion, whether that be on the hi-hat, whether that could be going and playing. And a lot of times if you slow this down, you will start to discover some things with some mistakes you're making, like, oh wow, when I go here to the tom, that path isn't very good for what I'm doing. So the fourth one's called pathways of motion. This fifth one, I started on it on some of the other exercise, but changing tones mid-exercise. So what I want to do is I want to start playing at one volume, I want to start playing at one velocity, and then I want to change those tones. Now what that's going to cause me to do is adjust how I'm hitting the snare drum, how I'm hitting the cymbals. It's also going to adjust my pathways of motion and my intent. Let's say I'm going like a blues would be a great one. We're going from a big open chorus to a very down verse. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to change those tones, and I'm going to practice as I change, not having there be a blip in the feel because I'm trying to adjust my consistency and my tone and all that stuff. So we've got like a big We can also do it on the same instrument, where we're playing very loud, then we come to very soft, where we're playing like we were before, where we're playing up on the bell of the cymbal, and then we come to the edge of the cymbal. Whatever that looks like, but we want to practice changing those tones, not just kind of flat out, this is what I'm playing here, this is how I'm playing that. If you're getting something out of this, or if it kind of sparks something with you, look, I do this on phone calls with my students every week in my online drum school. You can check that out at the links below. As well, we have in-person drum camps. Registration just opened up for the 2025 season. We've only got 6 of them. They will sell out. We did add a level 3 this last year, and it went really well, so we've got 2 more level 3s coming up this year. What I want to do is encourage you, no matter the curriculum you use, get involved with something that's going to help you improve your drumming on a consistent basis.